Welcome to Court Explainer, where today Maduro, the former president of the Republic of Venezuela, is expected to appear before the courts in the US. Kenyans and most African countries were colonized by the UK. The law applicable is different totally from the law in the US. In Kenya, we use the common law practice. It is adversarial. The police arrest, bring somebody to court, produce evidence, the judge makes a decision. But in the American system, it is completely different. People are expecting the same things they see in Milimani court, or a Kibera court, or a Mombasa court to be in court today. It's very, very different. The American process is a hybrid, both acquisitorial, that is adversarial, and also inquisitorial. But remember, their terminologies are completely different. The American criminal justice system is completely different. America has 51 states. Each state has a different criminal justice system. So the trial process in Ohio is completely different from the trial process in New York. Is a total different state. In Chicago, can you imagine? In America, it's not like in Kenya, where every county in this country, we use the same criminal procedure code. We use the criminal justice system to be the same. In America, each state has its own type of criminal process. But also very interesting, then there is the federal criminal justice system. The federal criminal justice system is completely different. It overshadows the states, those American states' criminal justice system. Look at, for example, the episode we are bringing. What are the glaring differences within America itself? Let us not even focus within Kenya here. What are the glaring differences? One, state cases are brought by prosecutors or district attorneys. These are the state cases. State of Arizona, state of Ohio, state of Texas, they are brought to court by people called state prosecutors or district attorneys. While federal cases, Maduro's case is a federal case. Maduro's case is not a state case. It is the Federal Republic of the USA. Such cases are brought by state attorneys. So in court, we are going to see state attorneys. We are not going to see prosecutors in court. Two, we are also going to see state trial judges, while Maduro will be tried by a federal judge, a federal magistrate, a federal judge. Two, federal judges are used in federal cases to hear initial matters, such as pretrial motions. So today, Maduro will be appearing before a federal magistrate. He will not be appearing before a federal judge. He'll be appearing before a federal magistrate. Three, the use of grand juries to judge defendants is not required at all states. It is in America where they use the jurors. But every state in America, the 51 states, it's not mandatory. But in federal matters, the juror will be there. So in Maduro's case, we are going to see the jurors present. So let us look. You'll forgive me, I was never trained in the American court system. I have got to read so that I don't misread you, so that I bring to you what we are talking about. Today we are looking at the federal criminal justice system in the USA. The federal criminal justice system is held by the president and the national government. All states in America joined into a federation called the Federal States of America. So the trial here will be conducted by the federal trial system. Let us deal with the arrests. How do they deal with arrests? The federal government must have a search warrant. So the question that is going to be before the trial court, was there a search warrant? Remember, Donald Trump said they were enforcing legal, or what they call legal enforcement. Legal enforcement, which means Americans must have gone to court, gotten search warrants, got warrants of arrest for Maduro. We shall be looking at it in court. Were there arrest warrants? 2, were there search warrants? 3, this is in conformity with the 4th Amendment of the United States Constitution. The criminal procedure in America is anchored on amendments of the Constitution. The first one we are dealing with is the 4th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures. So the 4th Amendment, as Maduro appears in court, the states of America must prove that they had warrants to search, they had reasonable reasons to search, and they complied with the 4th Amendment to that. 2, it requires that once the police have complied with this, the police to hold a suspect after arrest, and the complaint must be submitted to the trial judge within 48 hours. In America, it is 48 hours. In Kenya, it is 24 hours. That is the difference with there. So today, the third issue is the first appearance. Maduro has been arrested. Today is the third stage, that is being arraigned before a trial court. And the trial court, we have said, it is found under the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, Rule number 5. What does it say? The defendant against whom a complainant has been issued and therefore been arrested must be brought before the magistrate judge without unnecessary delay. The appearance must take place within 48 hours after the defendant's arrest. So today, Maduro is being brought to court. 48 hours. Have they passed? If they have been passed, his lawyers are going to raise preliminary objections that this is against rule number 5. During the first appearance, Maduro is reminded to seek bail and the right to have counsel. The second thing Maduro is going to face is to seek bail. Whether it's going to be given, we are going to watch. 2, he's going to seek to have an advocate representing them. The third issue, the court under the 8th Amendment. Here we are dealing with amendments. The 8th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution prohibits the courts to put excessive bail on the defendants. So the American 8th Amendment, their constitution, demands that Maduro, if he'll be given bail, he'll be given bail that is reasonable. In Kenya here, we talk of reasonable bail terms to enable the accused comply. In America, it is a constitutional requirement. After this has been done, then after that has been done, there will be number 4, a preliminary hearing. What is going to happen during when we watch Maduro in court. After the first appearance, the magistrate judge must schedule a preliminary hearing in order to determine whether there is a probable cause to believe that the defendant has committed the crime. Completely very different. In Kenya, the magistrate takes plea, you are released on bail, you go for trial. In America, the trial magistrate, the trial judge, must be satisfied that what has been brought as evidence brings out what is called a probable cause. The magistrate judge must hold the preliminary hearing within a reasonable time, but not later than 14 days after the initial appearance of the defendant. And if he's in custody, not later than 21 days in custody. So, after Maduro appears today, he will ask for bail. He will be released or be denied. If he'll be released, a pretrial hearing to determine whether this matter will proceed will be mentioned within 21 days. If he is not released on bail, there will be a pretrial hearing within 14 days. Even though the judge finds no probable cause to proceed and dismiss the charges, after 14 days, the state government officers, we have called them, they will come, give reasons, give evidence. The trial judge might dismiss the case and release Maduro. But it doesn't end there. There are what you call the jurors. Even if the judge finds no probable cause to proceed or dismiss the charges, this does not preclude what they call the grand jury proceeding. The grand jury will proceed. These are civilians. The grand jury are not judges. They are not law lecturers. They don't know the law. They are appointed as individual citizens. The judge is seated here, where I'm seated. There, the grand jury sits there. So the judge says, I don't see any reason Maduro was arrested. But the grand jury will proceed. And once they have proceeded, they will make a decision. If they differ with the magistrate, the prosecution of the case will proceed. Here, the judge is final. Here, the magistrate is final. There, the grand jury, civilians, are in control. They overrule the courts. They overrule the magistrates. So let us go to what happens in number 5. During a preliminary hearing, both sides are given to show their evidence and debate over the charges against the defendant. So Maduro and his team will be arguing before the magistrate and the juror, the grand jury, that this guy has done nothing. The state federal attorneys will be arguing that this man needs to go to jail. This trial must proceed. Serious arguments are going to be there. A decision is going to be done. Stage number 5, the grand jury proceedings. Let us see. This is a new thing. In Kenya, we don't have anything called the grand jury proceedings. The 5th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution says that a person suspected of a federal crime cannot be tried until a grand jury has determined that there is enough reason to charge that person. So, Maduro is not going to be tried until the grand jury hears and is convinced there is a probable cause of action. Here, the grand jury might frustrate Trump and say, this guy was arrested because of a fight over a woman. This guy was arrested because of a fight over oil. This is what you call the grand jury proceedings. The U.S. Supreme Court decided that this grand jury requirement is not it goes on, while the grand jury is in session, the defendant is not allowed to have an attorney to defend him. Very fundamental. During the grand jury proceedings, the president, Maduro, will not have the lawyers. Wakili Danstan Omari, Cliff Ombeta, Sam Nyaberi, Wandugi will not be there. Very interesting justice of the American system. The hearing of the grand jury, Maduro will not be allowed to have his attorney. In a grand jury proceeding, the prosecutor submits the evidence to the grand jury and tries to pursue the jurors to proceed. The grand jury may indict the defendant as long as at least 12 jurors agree. So the prosecutor is telling the grand jury, there is enough evidence. What is the quorum? 12 of the jurors must agree that this case must proceed. If the grand jury finds that there is sufficient evidence, the jury issues an indictment, a statement charging the defendant with the offenses and the related offense. It is the grand jury, after they have agreed, now that they issue what is called an indictment. In Kenya, it is the DPP who approves the charge sheet and signs the charge sheet if it is a matter before the magistrate's court. If it is murder, it goes to the DPP and an information is brought to the High Court for the offense of murder. Now, when an indictment has been issued, remember, Donald Trump said already an indictment has been issued against Maduro and his wife and other people. So this stage has already been bypassed by the American criminal justice system. The indictment must be submitted to the General Trial Court, and this indictment shall be used as an accusatory document instead of the complainant. So this is the charge sheet. An indictment in America is an equivalent of the charge sheet, is an equivalent of an information. So, according to what we are seeing on CNN, this has already been done. We are now going to procedure number 6, arraignment on indictment. This is most likely what we are going to see today. When the indictment has been filed before the trial court, at the arraignment, the defendant is asked to enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. So today, if the indictment had been done by the jurors, Maduro is going to take plea. He's going to plead guilty or not guilty. A complete different procedure against the Kenyan way. A plea of guilty or not guilty is advice of the accusations against him. He'll be told what the American have against him, and he will be called to have counsel. So today, if he takes plea, he will have his advocates. He will have his defense team. The defense that never rests will be there to battle, to defend the guy. Then the court must assign a trial date. The trial date must be consistent with the standards of right to speedy trial as provided for under the U.S. Constitution. So we are likely to see Maduro taking plea, his lawyers present, and a date for trial given. Then, number 7, they have what they call the pretrial motions. Under the federal rule number 12. The rule provides that any defense, any objection, or request that the court can determine without a trial regarding the prosecution and attacks might be raised during the pretrial motions. So, during the pretrial motions, in Kenya here, we have what we call, after somebody has taken plea, after 14 days, the court will give pretrial date. Here in pretrial, we get documents, witness statements, evidences to challenge the trial and fix the date for hearing. In America, during the pretrial stage, the defense will try to suppress evidence illegally obtained by the police or the prosecutor. So we are going to see Maduro's and the wife's defense team challenging that the evidence was acquired illegally. Maduro was arrested without a search warrant. Maduro was brought without a search warrant or arrest warrant. That is the reason for pretrial. 2, they will try to change the venue of the prosecution. Is the defense of Maduro going to challenge that New York is not the best place? Are they going to challenge this thing? Remember, this happened during when Saddam Hussein was being tried, and they wanted to bring Saddam Hussein back to the US. It was argued and the court upheld that the trial must be in Baghdad, in his own country. So, are the defense team going to raise this objection that they are not comfortable with the venue? 3, they will also be seeking dismissal for under the speedy trial clause or other provisions requiring dismissal for other problems within the charges. Are they going to raise issues on how he was arrested so that the trial stops? Are they going to make serious applications to stop the trial? In Kenya here, we call them preliminary objections. You raise a preliminary objection, and once it is sustained, the trial court says this matter cannot proceed. Or we raise serious objections that we need to go to the Court of Appeal, or we need to go to the Supreme Court. So this is going to happen during the pre-trial stage. The next stage, the 8th stage, is what they call discovery. In Kenya here, we call it pre-trial. In the discovery process in America, this is when all the witness statements, or the evidences, or the forensics will be given to the accused person and his defense. So, in Kenya, it is called pre-trial. In America, they call it discovery. The 9th stage is called plea bargaining. In plea bargaining, this one is a very controversial matter. Here, plea bargaining can mean Maduro's charges are read, and he says, I want to plead guilty. I want to plead guilty. There is no reason to proceed. You guys have enough evidence. I want to plead guilty and I'm sentenced. What will happen? If Maduro and his wife and team plead guilty and say they want a plea bargaining, they will go and negotiate and say with the federal attorneys and the prosecutors that me have pleaded guilty. Instead of jailing me for 30 years, remember the offense Maduro is facing has a minimum sentence of 30 years with a final sentence of life imprisonment. Maduro can opt, if his lawyers are bright, to say, let me plead guilty. And I plead guilty, and he says, I have surrendered being the president of Venezuela. Allow me with my family to live here and go and stay in Turkey. Allow me to go to Kenya and stay there. Plea bargaining. That will be an antidote. So plea bargaining, he can be jailed for 1 day if he goes for plea bargaining. He can be jailed for 10 days. He can be jailed for 100 years. The agreement between Maduro's lawyers and the federal prosecutors is not final. The American Constitution says it is the judge who has the final decision. The judge must be comfortable that Maduro is mentally alert. He understands what he's pleading guilty to, and he is ready to comply with the terms. But the sentence that they have negotiated with the ODPP of America, the judge can refuse or the judge can agree with that. So, if Maduro plea bargains and he is left, that is one trick the American lawyers have learned from court helicopter. Suppose he is not ready for plea bargaining, then the trial starts. That is trial. In the trial, the Sixth Amendment provides the right to trial by jury. By jury. The jury must be there. And the act, and this is where I want people to hear, the act of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure outlines the procedure for conducting federal criminal trials. And it is said, regardless of jury trial or judge trial, the defendant have many important rights related to trial, such as the right to counsel. Maduro and his wife will be given advocates to represent them. Remember, it is not every advocate who will go. Omari cannot be allowed to go there. You must be admitted as an advocate in the bar, the USA bar, for you to practice law there. You remember what happened in Uganda? Mother Karua was chased because she was not admitted to there. So the advocates were admitted there. But in the event Maduro wants lawyers from Kenya or any other country, they will apply. Those lawyers will apply for special licenses to go and represent him in that country. 2, he has a right for an impartial jury to be present. A jury must be present. He says, the Sixth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution guarantees criminal defendants the right to a speedy trial. The Sixth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution guarantees criminal defendants the right to a speedy trial. And the speedy trial must be within a reasonable timeline. The jurors has 12 jurors. The trial will proceed just like it proceeds. And this is a major departure. The court is taking notes. It is not the judge who will make the decision, the verdict of guilty or not guilty. Surprising. It is not the judge. It is the jurors. The 12 jurors who are civilians, doctors, engineers, journalists, surveyors, farmers, architects. These are the people who are going to decide whether he is guilty or not guilty. The jurors, the 12 jurors, my God. The jury must return its verdict to the judge in an open court, and this verdict must be unanimous. The 12 jurors will retire to write their judgment, their verdict. In Kenya here, judges retire. After the Supreme Court has heard the petition of the president, they retire to write a judgment. Here, it is the jurors who retire to write a judgment. That judgment is called a verdict. They come back to the open court, and they must give a verdict that is unanimous. 12 people must have a verdict that is unanimous. That is where things are. Suppose one does not say yes. 11 have said yes, this guy is innocent. One has said this guy is guilty. Or 11 have said this guy is guilty, and only one says this guy is innocent. What does the law of the American say? If the jury cannot reach a decision, it is called a hung jury. They have no unanimous decision. That jury is called a hung jury. What is now they have come, 11 have said Maduro should be convicted. Only one has said Maduro is innocent. 11-1. What will the judge do? The learned judge will do this. The court must declare mistrial under Rule 31B free. That is a mistrial, and Maduro is acquitted. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Only one juror can save Maduro and his team. Only one, not two. So if he lobbies only one juror, Maduro and his wife will go home. Can you imagine? Don't worry. This used to be part of the Kenyan judicial process in the old times before we changed it to the judge to make that decision. That is the decision. It is called a mistrial under Rule 31B sub 3. So that is what the process is going to do. In criminal cases, in order for the defendant to be found guilty, the prosecutor has to submit evidence proving that the defendant's guilt is beyond reasonable doubt. The prosecutor there, the federal attorney, must convince the jurors that this guy is guilty beyond any reasonable doubt. Today, people will be shocked that Maduro is going to be, this fate is going to be determined by lay people, not the judiciary. Sentencing. What will happen? The sentence will be done by the judge. The judge will determine the sentence, type, and period, ordinarily at a separate sentence hearing. The juror does not sentence. So we have said 12 jurors have told the judge Maduro is guilty. The judge then enters a guilt, and now it is called a sentence hearing. Here, it is the discretion of the judge for petty matters. But for federal cases like Maduro, the judge has no discretion. The sentence is between 30 years to life imprisonment. So the judge cannot reduce it to 10 years. You remember what is available in the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission cases in Kenya? It is the minimum sentence. The judge cannot come down. If you stole 10 million, it is times 3. Do you know the Sexual Offences Act? You defile a child of this age, it is the minimum sentence provided by law. So, Maduro, if convicted by the jurors, the sentence cannot be below 30 years. Suppose Maduro is acquitted. Can the federal state appeal? That is the next stage. the state cannot appeal if Maduro is acquitted. It says the U.S. Supreme Court adopted this position. The American state courts uniformly denied state governments the right to appeal acquittals of criminal defendants. In Kenya, if you are acquitted, the DPP will appeal. My friend, in America, if you are acquitted, the state cannot appeal. What a serious contradiction. Very interesting. If the state loses, that is the end of it. And the U.S. Supreme Court adopted this position in 1892 when it ruled that the federal government had no right to appeal an acquittal. Can you imagine? In Kenya here, the state, you can lose a case in Milimani Magistrates Court. The state can lose, it appeals to the High Court. The state loses at the High Court, it appeals to the Court of Appeal. It loses at the Court of Appeal, it will appeal to the Supreme Court. Not in America. So if Maduro gets serious lawyers to defend him and is acquitted, that is the end of it. What about executive appeals? Very interesting. Maduro has been convicted. Do you know he can make an executive appeal? What does an executive appeal mean? Article 221 of the U.S. Constitution gives the president power to grant reprieve and pardons for some offenses against the United States, similar to the federal law. All state jurisdictions give a right to criminal defendants to seek pardon or clemency from the executive authority. So Maduro can be convicted and he appeals to Trump. Trump has power to forgive. In Kenya, President Ruto does not have the power to forgive. There is a constitutional body called the power of mercy. You apply to the power of mercy. The power of mercy sits under the Attorney General. It is a constitutionally created organ. It reviews applications for people to be forgiven. They are the ones who come up with the names and they send to the president for pardon. In America, the president has power to pardon. The president of Honduras, who was brought like Maduro, was convicted. He was forgiven by Trump himself. So it's not something new. So Maduro can be convicted and Trump forgives him. This brings us to the Gen Z, what happened during the Njonjo time, the traitor issue. Many Gen Zs don't know. President Moi raised an issue that there was a traitor who wanted to overthrow his government. A tribunal was set, a judicial tribunal, that found the Attorney General then, Charles Njonjo, guilty and recommended to the president for action to be taken. The president forgave Njonjo. Under the old constitution of Kenya, the president had such powers. Under the American system, President Trump and others have that power to forgive. So, that brings to the end what we have brought in, the differences between the trial system in America and the trial system in Kenya. What we have said, trial court, there are courts within states and there is the federal court. The federal court is governed by the national government. If Maduro survives, that is likely to be there. So you've gotten it from court helicopter. The trial is completely different. It has different stages. Keep watching in the next episode when we shall be looking at other courts. The question we're asking, can Trump also be arrested by having broken Article 2 of the international law? Can the ICC arrest Trump and take him to The Hague? Yes. We shall be looking at the powers of the Rome Statute. We shall also be looking at in the International Court of Justice, where diplomats and presidents have been mishandled by other governments, where courts, the International Court of Justice, has said out that an immunity of a president, an immunity of a sitting president, immunity of a diplomat can never be impeached. Keep watching. The next episode tomorrow, we deal with those courts and how they are pronounced themselves. Wakili Danstan Omari, bringing it live in the most extraordinary view, the trial under the American criminal law. Thank you and Happy New Year.